Hey guys, it's Cortland back again, and this week I'm going to be bringing you my top 5 survival games. The survival genre has really blown up over the past few years and has become widely considered as one of the most entertaining game styles out there. You can check the top sellers list on Steam at any time and you'll most likely see a survival game on there. I will admit that the indie game market has been pretty oversaturated with these types of games, but these 5 that I've chosen today are the diamonds in the rough. Number 5, Space Engineers. Space Engineers is one of the many games that have been in early access for quite some time. However, it is every bit of playable in its current state. During my time playing, I couldn't find any glaring bugs that made the game unenjoyable, so don't be too afraid of that early access tag. Space Engineers is a game that puts a very unique spin on the survival genre. Instead of chopping trees or mining rocks with a pickaxe to build your shelters, you can collect resources from asteroids, other planets, or even salvage parts from your enemies' ships. I will say that Space Engineers is not a game that you want to jump right into without doing a bit of research. Whenever I first got Space Engineers, I started it up and was pretty overwhelmed. If you decide to get this game, definitely watch a few YouTube tutorials first. After you learn the basic concepts, you'll be fine, but the advanced stuff can really blow your mind with how complex it can get. Nonetheless, my friends and I were entertained by the struggle to keep our oxygen generator in working order while also having to worry about attacking pirates on the horizon. If you think situations like these would be of interest to you, then you should definitely check out Space Engineers on Steam. Number 4, State of Decay. Undead Labs' State of Decay was released on PC and Xbox 360 in 2013. It's a zombie survival resource management game that tells the stories of the citizens of Trumbull Valley as they make their way through the zombie apocalypse. The game allows you to play as different characters that you encounter, set up bases throughout the city, go on supply runs for food, medicine, and weapons, and of course you can door check zombies while you're doing it. You have to make sure that your supply of food and medicine stays at a reasonable level while protecting your communities from attacks from zombie hordes. Sometimes you'll have to make a hard decision, such as deciding if you should have to let someone die so that others can live, or if you should bring back more medicine instead of food. State of Decay is a game that I've sunk many hours into, and I look forward to the sequel coming in 2017. Number 3, This War of Mine. This War of Mine was released a bit under the radar back in 2014, but quickly climbed the ranks in the top sellers list. This game is more of a strategy game than the rest of the games on this list, but I wanted to include it because it still relies heavily on the general theme of survival. In this War of Mine, you're put in control of a group of survivors in a city heavily damaged by an ongoing war. The player is forced to make many moral decisions, such as deciding whether or not to let a civilian in need join your group. It may seem like an easy choice, sure, let the guy join, but it may not be so easy when you realize you are only barely getting by on what little food and water you have. Sometimes you have no other choice but to make a seemingly bad decision for the good of your group. The gameplay is relatively simple, and if you're a fan of strategy, then I recommend trying this one out. This War of Mine is a heavily emotional game and will no doubt put your morality and willpower to the test. Number 2, Rust. Considered by many to be the pioneer of early access survival games, Facepunch Studios' Rust is one that is without a shadow of a doubt a personal favorite. Rust first went into early access roughly 3 years ago back in 2013. Following its release were the obvious comparisons to other big games at the time such as DayZ and Minecraft. Keep in mind that this is the year that all of these survival/base building style games were really coming to the forefront, and I personally believe that Rust was the one to come out and stay on top. Rust is still in its early access stage and remains to be one of the most played games on Steam. Facepunch Studios updates the game very frequently, adding bug fixes, new weapons, new armor, and much more other cool stuff for people to play around with. Rust is a game best played with friends, but can also be played alone if you prefer to play that style. The gameplay is quite simple. When you first start out, you have a rock and a torch, and it's up to you to figure out how you're going to survive the unforgiving wilderness. You'll have to chop trees and mine rocks to build your base, craft your weapons, and upgrade your tools. I've been a big fan of Rust ever since it was put into early access, and I'm definitely excited to see what they have in store for the full release. Number 1, The Long Dark. Hinterland's single-player survival game, The Long Dark, has been a personal favorite of mine ever since it went into early access in 2014. Of all the games on this list, there is none more immersive and realistic than The Long Dark. The game is set in a snowy Canadian wilderness after your character survives a plane crash and the fallout of a global disaster. Unlike some of the other games on this list, you don't build your shelter, but instead find it. You'll find yourself exploring abandoned houses, caves, and even a massive hydro dam. It's up to you to scavenge for food, water, clothing, and other necessities for survival. If you manage to find the right resources, you can hunt, fish, and cook your own food, so that you aren't forced to live off of old candy bars. You'll also need to find something to defend yourself from the wildlife of the Long Dark. In some playthroughs you might get lucky enough to find a hunting rifle, while in others you may have nothing more than just a dull knife. Since it entered early access on Steam, Hinterland Studios has been working non-stop to get the game into its fully finished state. However, in the state that the game currently is in, it could very well be considered finished. The grim, cold world of Long Dark is one that manages to suck me in every single time I start up the game. I say bravo, Hinterland Studios. Well guys, thank you once again for watching, and if you enjoyed this list and would like to see more like it, please don't forget to leave a like. Give me a suggestion for a gaming list you'd like to see in the future in the comments, and as always, don't forget to subscribe for more gaming content. I'll see you guys next week.